I can
There
hear
we
you
go.
now. All right.
All right, there we go.
How you doing, Chaz?
I couldn't hear
Welcome.
you guys at first, and then I had to go mute, unmute, then mute again. So,
You'd think
all
I'd
righty. Technology, it's great.
Absolutely.
Isn't it?
So welcome. We just did our quick introduction, but
All
we
right.
talked. I'm Tony. This is
Hi, I'm
Patrick.
Patrick.
To my left, Gavin to my right.
Hi, guys.
And so for the viewers, Chaz, if you would like to introduce yourself and kind of tell us a little bit about who you are, what you're doing, what you've been working on.
I'm Chaz Fatur, also known as Bobo the Clown. I grew up in the circus. No, kidding. Let's go. It's a good opener. No, I'm Chaz Fatur, yeah. AKA Charles Ryan Fatur, full name. So yeah, just quickly, I was born in Riverside, California, moved back to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania when I was about 2. Joined the Navy out of high school, 18 and a half. Got my first taste of the entertainment industry when I was toward the end of my career in Port Hueneme, California. There was a production coming to film there on base, and they wanted to hire some real military extras background. And I got on luckily, and it wound up being Michael Bay's Pearl Harbor that filmed up there. So I got to work 3 scenes, like 16 days total, off and on.
That's cool.
So that was my first taste, and that's how I fell in love in the industry. Was watching, I didn't just sit and holding and twiddle my thumbs the whole time, and they didn't have cell phones back then. So it was, so I went over on set and, be quiet and watched everybody work, watch everybody, how the process came together, everybody came together. And it was amazing. It just blew my mind. So yeah, since then, I was around 2000, 2001. I did another movie, Ali, with Will Smith, Michael Mann. And then I got into basically background acting. I started writing around, took a class in Ventura College, screenwriting, about 2001. And it still took me to 2004 to do my first screenplay. A little stage fright for the first 3 years, not convinced, not, a little doubting myself. And then, I started working, like I said, background acting, majority of the time. Around 2006, I had my first principal role on TV show 24.
What was your character on 24?
Guard. Yeah, I was the one that arrested Sean Astin on season 5.
Okay, I remember that.
He was guest starring. Yeah, I was the guard. That was me.
I love that show. I've seen it like 3 times.
Yeah. Keep watching my episode. I get residuals. Yeah, all right.
Yeah, I definitely have a legal copy to where you would get that.
It's like $4 or $5. Yeah, it helps. So yeah, then I had a principal same year on Gilmore Girls, and then a year later or something on Las Vegas. So those are my 3, claim to fame. That was mostly background most of my career. So I did about 15 years total. In between then, 2010, I went to LA Film School. I thought I'd try to educate myself on what I don't know yet. So I fell in love with editing, sound design. I know those are 2 very important elements in filmmaking. And screenwriting I already knew, acting I already knew. So some of the other crew positions were worthy to, get to know too, because that's the way the school was structured. Is each month was a different crew position for a class. So production design, art design, screenwriting, directing, producing, all that. And it was like, so it was 2 years long for that. It was an AA degree at the time. Now they're a full 4-year college degree program. But back then it was only 2 years when I was in it. So I graduated in 2012. Did a little more background until 2015. I retired there. 2017, I moved back here to Pittsburgh and continued my writing and working with my partner, Eric Gorin, in New York. Him and his wife, Trish, are both teachers in New York. And we got together back in 2010 when I first went to film school. He had a project up called Throwaways, and it looked fascinating. And then I saw my buddy, Corey Haim, was starring in it and do a directorial debut at the time. Well, that same year in March, he passed away at the age of 38. And so I contacted Eric, and I'm like, well, I lost a friend. You lost an actor, director. What do you want to do with this project? You want to continue his memory, or do you want to squash it? And he said, I want to continue it. So I helped get some elements. We fully casted it once. Pandemic happened, nothing happened. So we recast it again, second time, with a little bit better actors. And this process, we're still looking for funding. So, because, with between the COVID and now writer strike, and it's, main thing I'll point out today, since the topic's going to be about DIY, do it yourself. One of the main things that we learn also from film school, they tell you too, is the best way to succeed would be networking connections. So it's basically who you know before what you know.
Yep.
It's so prominent in Hollywood. That's how handshake deals and elevator deals get made and stuff, is because, it's who you know before what you know. And so that's one of the things Eric and I, kind of was weaker on, was our connections and networking. Now, I spent a lot of time in LA working, film business and acting. So I was with the stars and everything else, but I couldn't really pitch my ideas, my scripts to them, because it would be considered unprofessional. So I was like, I'm right there and I'm talking to the directors, producers, actors, and I can't do shit. I'm like, frustrating. And my partner Eric is in New York, like I said, so he has like the money side over there, Wall Street and all the big shots, and he's tried over there too. But yeah, so I did a little lead in there. So we're going to talk about the do it yourself DIY process of filmmaking.
Oh, absolutely. And it's funny too, when you brought up that, you couldn't say anything, you're right there. Most people, that the hardest part for them is just getting next to the people to be able to talk to them, and exactly. You had that opportunity, but you weren't able to say anything. So
I worked with some of the biggest stars in Hollywood. I mean, Harrison Ford, Sandra Bullock, a whole bunch. I mean, it's endless of people that I worked with and stuff. And first film was Ben Affleck, Jennifer Garner, Kate Beckinsale, and Josh Hartnett, Pearl Harbor. And they were still up and comers back then. Ben's done a few things. And then Jennifer later did Alias. And I worked with her on that too. And so I've done a bunch of stuff and worked with some of the biggest stars. They're cool and they're people too. But I can be one secret, one girl that's a queen bee, what the B stands for. That's one of the worst to work for, is the mom off of Gilmore Girls. So you guys know who it is. Yeah. So I don't want to say anything there. But yeah, she was a real pill. Didn't respect the background people, called us cockroaches one time. Because it was funny, we were doing filming inside of filming. So it was basically on the set of Gilmore Girls, they're actually filming something. So some of us got to be crew people. So we looked just like the regular crew. So one of the background crew was over at the craft service table, and she happened to be there, and that's when he overheard her say that. And that's just, so, she came from the same world we did, came up the same way we did, background and everything else, it's like most actors do. And just for her lack of appreciation that, all that fame got to her head and she doesn't appreciate us anymore, it was really shallow and, really bad. But the majority of actors were terrific. Martin Sheen was one of the best. He would come around and shake everybody's hands. Crew, staff, actors, background actors, everybody, introduce himself. I mean, one of the top gentlemen in the industry.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and
it's funny. You always hear those different stories about it. You'll hear some people are like, Hollywood sweethearts. Like, we talked about him on our last interview, Mr. Tom Hanks. Yep. It's like everybody said, behind or in front of the screen, or regardless of where he's at, he's still like Hollywood sweetheart guy. Like, he's just a nice guy in the world.
Majority of the time, he has his temper from time to time. I've seen clips where like there was a photographer approaching his wife.
Oh yeah,
and they bumped into her, just barely just brazed her, and she got a little pissy, and then he came in and attacked her, basically not attacked, but verbally went after him.
Yeah.
So I saw that. Everybody has their moments, but overall, he is very nice. When he films, like here in Pittsburgh, he's been there several times. He'll interact with the people watching around, the locals and stuff, and he's like attended, like what's it called, photobombing and attending someone's wedding here in Pittsburgh. He does stuff like that. But I worked with him once on the Terminal with Steven Spielberg. So I only got a brief moment to say hi to him at that point. Then I find out years later that I'm actually related to him distantly. So
nice.
Yeah, it's like about 200 celebrities I'm related to. It's kind of odd, weird. But it's cool too. It's the same way, because I work with the people, and then now like Tom Cruise, it's like it's I didn't have a chance to tell him back then when I was working with him, because I didn't know then. So, but now I do. So, but yeah, Tom's really nice. Super nice. Also, he just took a bad rap because of the whole Scientology thing, and the Katie Holmes thing of not when he was like jumped on over his couch and everything. He was just an excited guy. He was happy. It just happened to go against him a little bit, but super nice guy, very caring about the extras. I mean, we have what's called a craft service table, and so of course, the crew and the main cast are going to have really, really nice stuff. The background has, stale popcorn, pretzels, maybe some water, stuff like that. And Tom went by and saw how bad it was. He actually, went and told the craft service person, all right, here's what's going to happen. You're going to make their table exactly like ours, or you're never going to work in the industry again. Plain and simple. Then within 5-10 minutes, they had us looking like their table, and we were all snacking out. So he really does care. He's super nice.
And I have heard like from with him, he does like, he gets like he's the first one on set. He does a whole lot of the work.
Yeah.
I remember hearing like his work ethic on Edge of Tomorrow. Like he was always the first one on set going through. He went through more training than most of the rest of the cast did, trying to get ready for that role. Yeah.
When I work with him is on Mission Impossible 3. It was a pickup shot on a Saturday morning. And it was, if you guys remember the movie, there's a scene where he's supposed to pick up the postcard with a stamp and it has a little microchip underneath the stamp.
Yeah.
It was that scene. And I was a bike messenger because they said anybody with a bike, and I got the gig. And but you can't see anybody because the windows are so blurred. You can't see anybody outside. I mean, you can kind of see a little shadow of me riding by, but barely. But anyways, even he was meticulous then. He had to, he's always taking charge. Making strong suggestions toward the director. He doesn't want to take the director's job, which I'm surprised he hasn't yet. But yeah, he is very meticulous. And then afterwards, he was by his golf cart and he was changing his shirt right then and there and getting ready for the next scene. So yeah, it's he's very meticulous, very, very work ethic, very strong. I mean, it's even with the recent Mission Impossibles too. I mean, all the actors had the same thing that worked with him.
Oh, nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So there's some actor stories, a lot more, but what we want to talk about.
We love stories.
So, we talked about, offline, and then you mentioned it here about, the DIY process. So, for the viewers and for us, kind of give us an idea of like, what is the DIY process? How do you go about it? Some of the tricks of the trade, so on and so forth.
Yeah. DIY stands for do it yourself. So basically you're going to try to package your film by yourself without anybody professional. Most of the normal times you'll have funding already in place. Some of the big dogs and the big production companies and studios will have funding in place. They get a project ready, they got a script, they'll hire the crew, and it's usually the production manager or UPM, unit production manager, that actually does all the legwork basically and puts everything together, hiring everybody, getting everything together. So you're basically doing their job as well when you DIY. So you're doing everything yourself. So the first step would probably be obviously a script, get a good script going. Make sure it's really ready to go, no mistakes. After that is then you start talking about the characters in the script and what actors would probably best portray them. And then you would try to go and try to hire some actors. So you contact their agent and managers, whoever rep they have, try to negotiate and tell them what's going on and everything. And it's very, very difficult to get an A-lister that way. Normally, you're going to have funding in place for a lot of bigger actors. So when we had our project, which was tentatively called Throwaways, and it became Human Factor and became Humagen, then I Am Human and Termination. I mean, there's so many titles we had. Anyway, it's the same project basically. And when we casted there, they weren't A-list actors; they're more BC related actors. Decent names like William Mosley from Lion, Witch, and Wardrobe. He was the oldest son. Rachel Nichols, not the sportscaster, but the actress. She was like G.I. Joe, the Conan the Noose. It would do one with Jason Momoa. And then we had older ones like Tom Sizemore. He passed away recently, unfortunately. Eric Roberts. We had Michael Pare, Corbin Benson. Names like that. They're names in the past, but there's still people kind of remember them. So. But it's also tough to get the funding. That was the next step. So once you have a cast together, we even got a few crew people also. We had an Academy Award nominated production designer, Lily Kilbert. On two films she was nominated. So she liked it. And so, going down that too, getting a crew helps too. If you get a named director, that definitely helps. With Hurt Locker, they hired Catherine Bigelow first before any actors, and they got funded. So once in a while like that, get a good name director, you can do the same thing. So basically what you want to do when you hire is, if you can get a decent name that's worth something in the industry, and I'll get to the reason how they're worth in a minute, but that's the key right there, is to try to find somebody, because they're basically your equity, your asset that's going to help you get the funding.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if they're bankable enough, then funders will come in and fund your movie. Now, the process of how you get to that point is what's called sales agents. There's a sales agent, sales rep out there that will basically are the ones who put the value on not only your script, but also the actors you have attached, you know, to see what they're worth. And so that's the toughest product, because, you know, everybody has their own opinion on who's worth what, whatever else. I mean, you know, you talk to Eric Roberts, he was nominated for Academy Award in 1987. A lot of people don't know that. But then he didn't really choose a career path he should have, which a lot of actors fall into. And then now he basically saturates the market these days, where he works almost everything for chump change. And it's sad, you know, because he's a really terrific actor. Tom Sizemore definitely been a little more mainstream. He's done a lot of bigger projects. He worked with me on Pearl Harbor. Really cool guy. Unfortunately, he passed away, so he's no longer available. But yeah, so that's the basic, is getting a cast together, maybe a little bit of crew, trying to get actors that are worth something, which is your equity, and then try to go to the sales agents, get a write-up from them saying this is what they're worth, and take it to a production company's next stage, and trying to get the funding, or, you know, executive producers, you know, either private equity or actual small production companies, you know, stuff like that, that once you get the sales estimate, they can see that it's worth something, that, you know, they can get a legitimate source from it, resource, then basically they'll fund your movie. So we came so close where we gotten some sales agents, we got the cast, you know, we got approximate estimate of how much the budget would be. We've taken it around, shopped around, and we still couldn't get the project going. Just, you know, we fell just short. And it's frustrating because, you know, you got to also have an iron will too. I mean, you got to be determined. You have to have patience, perseverance, you know, to stay in this industry, because you'll get a lot of rejections before you finally get a yes, you know. So we're still packaging it, and, you know, we're still waiting, but Eric's got a couple other of his scripts that he's got going a little bit further right now. So we're going to work on those first. But that project's still alive. You know, we still want to do it, and it's about homelessness, which is the main theme of the movie. You know, a lot of movies will have homeless characters and a little bit of a backstory there, but this one's all about the homeless element and people in there. And, you know, basically, if something bad was happening to them, would you speak up? Would you do something about it? You know, that's the moral of the story. And that's why I had several titles I told you about, but we're still working on that. But yeah, and it's a tough process. You got to really be steadfast. You know, you got to say, hey, you know, keep trying. There's a lot of resources out there. I mean, Eric probably has almost hit up over it, all of them. He had one project that we were working on briefly here. It was called The Science of Cool. Eventually changed to Super Cool later on, and it got stolen from us. And that happens too a lot. He trusted this guy a while back to find some funding for him, and the guy stole the script, and he went out, optioned it, got a little bit chunks of change here and there from different places until he finally sold it to a Finnish company in Finland, and like 30 grand or something for the script. Well, Eric was very meticulous when he does things. Well, I love this because he keeps every single email he ever writes or gets back. So he has like 200,000 plus emails from all in the industry related to people. So he's able to go back and find this guy's email, then hire a cybersecurity company called Palo Alto. And then they did their work, and then they found out, yes, he did steal it. He actually did jail time for another project he stole.
Oh, wow.
And so with that, Eric took that to the production company in Finland, showed him everything, told him what happened. And if it was an American company, I don't think he probably would have gotten jack shit. Believe it, I say that. But since being a Finnish company, they were very nice. They gave him half the script sale, 15 grand, and gave him an executive producer credit and an original manuscript by, or original script by. That was really nice. They you know, once you proved it to them, then they were very you know, accommodating and stuff, and it was nice to see that.
Now, when you're saying they stole the script, you mean the actual script, or like same name and everything, same title, or did they take the idea, write their own version, and sell that? Just so I'm curious.
Half and half. The way we caught them is once we were allowed to see their script, once the case was in progress, he had still about six characters that we had stay the same, and the concept was pretty close to being the same. It just modified them. It was very raunchy. Ours was more CW or a Nickelodeon.
Yeah,
and his dumbed down, very kids. Yeah, very kid oriented, and even though it was a high school movie. But I mean, actually, if you think about it, the one they made is probably more realistic, because when you get in the high school level, I mean, it is going to be a lot of cursing. It is going to be a lot of smoking cigarettes. It's going to be this. It's going to be raunchy, stuff like that. So they did the realistic version. But, you know, like I said, it became super cool. Damon Wayans Jr. was starring in it. And did okay, actually. They actually went into the black, made a little profit. But yeah, so that's what happened. And so that gave Eric his first credit, technically.
Nice.
And now he's got 2 other projects he's trying to package with some reputable companies now because of that. Because like I said, it takes one, then a chain reaction is that everybody will be like, okay, you did one, this is pretty decent. Okay, that's what do you got next? And that's how he's doing these deals now, is because of that one project that, you know, even though it was stolen, you know, we're not telling all these people. That was just our knowledge, but we'll just say, yeah, he was executive producer, script by whatever else. And but yeah, the script did change quite a bit, but still was close enough that, plus like 6 same characters we knew right away. So
yeah, and that's the other reason that's why I wanted to ask that question too. And when you mentioned like if it was here in USA, probably wouldn't have gotten anything, because you know, as you know, like when you write something and you submit it to, you know, the Writers Guild or something, you know, just so that you have it stamped that it's yours. They say the biggest problem to trying to actually officially copyright a script is because there's so many ideas out there that are so similar and with characterization that it's very difficult to actually full on get a hardcore.
There's only a finite combination of words in the English language.
Yes.
Yeah, the courts say you can change it up to about 20% to get away with it, to steal it, basically. When that's like, you're giving them a gift of steal. All they have to do is change it 20%. You're gonna stamp approval and say it's okay. That's not right.
Yeah.
And that's the couple other made bigger examples of this. Was Sylvester Stallone when he stole Rocky years ago. He took the idea from the guy. It took him 36 years to finally get paid what he was owed, because it didn't make a lot of money, but it did win the Academy Award. Years later, the idiot didn't even think twice about it, or he's just that way kind of guy. He did again with Expendables. Now this time he got busted because the one general's name was the same from the other guy's script. And so, but since it made an insane amount of money, he was easy to pay this guy's off quickly, and you didn't hear much about it.
Yeah.
And then he continued now further the series. He got the rights to the series eventually. But I mean, it's just shady stuff. Like people like that we grow up and admire. You know, Sylvester Stallone was Rocky, and he did so many other things. And it's like, to know that that type of person did that, you know, it has this character when he did that to get his fame. I mean, he started off in porn, you know, if anybody remembers.
Yep.
Stallion. That's where he got the nickname for the movie Rocky. You know, and it's like, so he wanted to go mainstream, and this is the way he did it. But it happens a lot, unfortunately, and it happened to us, Eric and I just told you about the story there. And so it does happen even on a lower level, you know, and it's sad.
Oh,
it really is. But like I said, we got lucky, and, you know, Eric got the credit because it was an older version of the script. So I didn't help then at that point, but he did give me a little bit of money because obviously I did help later on with it. But still, credit wise, I didn't get the credit because it was an earlier version that he did years ago.
Yeah.
But
you weren't signed on at that point. At that point. Yeah.
Right. But he's still, you know, he's my partner, so he afforded me a few bucks, so that was nice.
Nice.
Yeah.
Have your projects been impacted by the SAG or Writers Guild strikes that are going on?
Yeah, everybody's is. We can't do anything with it right now. I mean, technically, if, you know, people were talking recently about that, if you want to do a non-union project, like right now, Eric and I are not WGA, so it's because we haven't done a big enough movie to qualify yet. But he could technically, I guess, because he did the super cool. But because of that, yeah, you could do non-union projects, but they're still going to look frown upon you and still think you're scabs and stuff because you're trying to do projects, even though you're not affiliated with any of the unions. If you get non-union actors, you're a non-union writer, non-union director, you could do a project, and they might not care about it. But if they did catch wind of it, you could still get frowned upon, and it would be really even more difficult. So yeah, we are impacted as well, because especially with this project I told you guys that Eric and I are doing, we had the actors attached. Obviously, we can't use them right now because they're on strike. So it affects everybody that has a project. Now, waivers, there are waivers out there. We didn't have any funding towards the movie. We probably could have gotten a waiver, but the waiver was only 4 people that were either already partially filming prior to, or at least had the funding and was ready to go. And it was only 200 projects that got approved for the funding, because they're not doing it anymore now, but they did. They approved about 200 projects to go ahead and do it. I mean, even Brad Pitt got shit because he still continued filming during the strike on his project because they got the exemption, but they're like, all his buddies in acting world were frowning upon it. So he finally called a halt to it. I mean, even that level. So, but yeah, it affects everybody, and it's so we're all on hold. I mean, my agent can't sell any of my scripts right now either. So yeah, everybody's on hold. So she's smart though. What she did is she created a streaming site called Elevation Movies, Elevation Cinema. If you look it up later, some of my works will be on there. I have a docu-film on there called Our Right to Live, which is basically about a screenwriter's journey throughout Hollywood, from original idea to the Oscars. So it's a pretty cool movie. And then yeah, so she instead of just sitting around, she's actually proactive by doing this streaming site and looking for content and trying to get it up and running by this fall. And so that's good on her part, you know. So like, because a lot of even bigger time agents, managers right now, like CAA and WME and all them, they're not enjoying shit. They're not making money. They don't make money until the clients make money. They get the percentage. So yeah, everybody's hurting right now. The studios are losing millions of dollars a day. I don't know why they're being so damn stubborn. It's not practical or not smart. But they are who they are, and they're just acting the way they are, and they're both not compromising. I mean, it's like a marriage too, you know. It's like, you know, for a good marriage to work, you got to compromise from time to time. You know, maybe your wife wants to do this and you want to do that, but it's okay. Well, we'll do this now. We'll do this next time. You know, and same thing with the industry. You know, it's like a marriage too between all the unions and the producers. You know, you got to find a easy compromise, even compromise. And they almost had it. Writers almost had it a few times. They're still missing the TV side of it. They're trying to short staff TV staff for writers. By maybe hiring 2, 3, or 4 of them at the most, where they used to have sometimes up to 8 and 10 or more for a TV show. And so WGA hasn't given on that part, you know, because they were going to make concessions for the AI, but now it's the numbers on the TV side of it, they're still not quite happy with yet.
Yeah.
So once they compromise and get a happy number, the writers could be over. But still, same thing. If the writers get done with their strike and it's over, now, yeah, you can write and sell scripts now, but guess what? There's no movies made because the actors are still on strike. So you got to negotiate with them too right afterwards and get them on the ball. And the actors, obviously, the biggest thing is AI. So, you know, they're trying to go in this AI world, and I think, you know, if you create original AI characters, nobody can say shit. But if you are going to use the image of these famous actors and make an AI character that way without hiring the actor, they have to get paid fairly. You know, for image. Yeah.
I mean, it's no different than any other likeness, right? Really. I mean, that's an old school rule right there.
Yeah. There's even some video games that, you know, have taken the face of the famous stars. You know, they play the little characters in the video games too, with the video game movies and stuff. And, you know, I'm sure they got paid. You know, they had to.
Oh, yeah.
Voiceover alone, you're going to get paid. But I mean, yeah. So, I mean, that's the biggest thing. So I hope they negotiate soon. But now they got a hurricane coming. So that's going to halt things even further.
Oh yeah,
California.
Yeah. Hey, real quick, Chaz. So we're coming up to a little bit of time here. I told you we kind of don't have the full version, so we have to kind of cut it in half. So let's put a pause here. I'll resend you a link. We'll relink up with you in just a couple minutes. So I'll send it to you in just a few minutes. I just have to wait for this to render out, and then we'll get you back on for the next part.
Sure, no problem.
All right, we'll talk to you in a bit. All right, looks like Chaz is about to rejoin us here in a second.
I think Zoom just gave up. They're like, yeah, we've cornered this market. We don't need to improve anything.
Yeah. They're like, if everybody would just upgrade.
Yeah.
Why don't you pay us?
An exorbitant amount of money. Hey, Chaz.
Welcome back. Sorry about the little delay. Apparently, when you don't have a full upgraded version of Zoom, they make you wait like 5 minutes before you can do anything again.
Okay. No sweat. Yeah.
So welcome back.
What I was saying earlier about the DIY process, I missed one step that's a little more difficult these days. They used to do it back in the day, and they'll do it with bigger projects. It's called distribution. Distribution companies do what's called a pre-sales agreement. They'll pre-buy your script and your movie and concept. Hopefully you have the right elements attached. You could get advance money towards obtaining, you know, better funding from people. So I did forget that part of it. For the part of the process, but it's a little more difficult one to do these days.
Like we actually had one of the guests that we had interviewed that lives here locally. She's a actress and producer and director and stuff, and distribution. She's had some major headaches, and she's works with some big companies and big production companies and distribution. You got to be very careful of which ones you deal with, because some of them can be on the more shady end of things, or not list out all the specifics in the contract, or not be clear about it, and
you just start getting a bill for random charges.
Yeah.
But you're not getting
that's the other part of it too. Ever since COVID, people got desperate, and then another thing that's holding off, which makes it more difficult for any people to get funded and get movies going, is for the scams. These scammers came out of the woodwork and they infiltrated Hollywood. There was a case of this one guy, I don't know his name, but he scammed a whole bunch of people saying he was a distributor or a sales agent, one of the two, and started collecting all this money from everybody. He's going to put together this movie. And then he, they caught him on some tropical island, kick him back. So, so the scammers are out there now too. And I've gotten a few emails that way. But you kind of, once you recognize scammers, you kind of pick up on, their scent, number one, and then how they do business, the way they talk and stuff. So yeah, unfortunately, because of COVID, that's another part that's really making it even more difficult for like low budget independent people to try to get going and get funding. People are all these production companies and studios are very tight with their money. So they have their like set people they have already in house, maybe even some writers too, whatever. So it's very, very, very rare they farm out anywhere. Not unless if you won a major screenwriting competition somewhere and you got that kind of recognition, that'd be the only way people can make it in now these days. And it's very difficult. And it's a shame. It's a whole new demographic now, a whole different era because of COVID, because of now the strike. One major studio already shut down, Braun Studios from Canada. They already claimed bankruptcy. They're finished. And they're like a major company. They did a lot of big projects. I'm sure, I don't know if more are coming. We know a lot of independents have closed down, but they're smaller. They didn't really recognize too much media attention. But yeah, that's going to happen too, Now, on the flip side, for people like, Eric and I, who are still, persistent, we're going to wait this out and see. We can still afford because we get, he has a day job. I get my disability money from the Navy. So we're surviving. So unlike other people that, like I have some friends who are still background actors in Hollywood, they're struggling. If they can't get unemployment, they have to go get another job. There's even rumors, I couldn't find anything about it yet, but there's rumors about, actor Michael Perez working at a car wash. I don't know how much truth that is to it, but
not Eddie from Eddie and the Cruisers. Oh man,
I know Eddie and Cruisers. Yeah, exactly. I don't know. We had him attached to our project. We got in touch with him personally. Eric had his direct info, so he likes our project. He's stuck with us this whole time in both castings. But if that is true, that's sad. That's but he's at a level where they're struggling to get work. He's up in their 50s, 60s. It's hard unless you're already a pre-established A-lister at that age, like a Brad Pitt, Tom Cruise, people in that age group that are already pre-established and kept their A-list status, going. That's tough. It's tough to do these days to keep that A-lister status. It really is, And
the other sad part about it is when you talk about the A-listers or the top companies or production companies, whatever it may be, those are guys that, they're making $10 million a flick, 50 million, they've done 3 or 4 movies in the past couple of years. So they can at least, I know it hurts everybody at the end of the day, but those are guys that hey, if I don't get work for the next year, I'm not going to be getting food stamps or something, It's really a lot more of the independent people that are part of the union that I think, in my opinion, are getting really screwed in the whole thing.
They count on that money for their day-to-day lives. That puts food on the table.
Well, it was also
Brad Pitt pays his car insurance.
It's also during COVID, when all the actors were like, "Hey, we can get through this. You're living in a mansion. I'm stuck in my 1-bedroom apartment." Okay.
We're all in the same boat. Their boat's a $10 million yacht.
Insane.
I'm in a rowboat missing an oar.
Depending on how long these strikes last, it's going to eventually pinch them too. Eventually, even the bigger stars, because even the major studios are losing $1 million a day. Because nothing's in production right now. So they still got a few coming out in the theaters. That's going to trickle down if this continues. So I'm hoping they negotiate before the end of the year, but they're talking first of next year, maybe possibly after the holidays. But earliest I heard was October, late October, because that's the fiscal year cycle for all the production companies and studios. That's when they get their money. So it could be as early as that, or it'd be late as next year, from what I heard. But at least they're talking. So they're still talking. WGA and the Producers Guild are all talking still. They've had 3 or 4 meetings now, so it looks like they want to try to get going again. because I know they're going to feel a pinch here pretty soon. Because at their level, you got to think they always live at a high standard. You know, they had all of this, you know, hundreds of millions of dollars coming in from these big blockbusters. They're not getting made now, so it's shrinking. You know, it's going down, and they're feeling the pinch too. They still got enough money to survive, but they're feeling the pinch. They're not living up at their standard they're used to. You know, that's what a strike will do to you. I mean, with the writer's strike, you could still, you know, when the writer's strike first happened before the actors did, you can still film a film if the script was written and sold prior to the strike.
Yeah.
Okay, so nothing after the strike, obviously, but anything prior to that, you can still film because you still have the actors and everything. And when the actors went on strike, yeah, that halted all of Hollywood. You can't do shit. And if you're going to negotiate with the writers first, that makes no sense because you get the writers agree, you got the agreement now, you sign it, everybody's good and happy, you can write scripts and sell them. There's still no actors to act them. You got to now negotiate over with the actors and get everybody back to work. So, yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
I think they would try to negotiate with the actors first. I don't know why they're going to writers first. I guess maybe they're trying to get the actors to bend. So they see if the writers agree to it, then they think the actors, oh shit, now we have to agree to it. I don't know. You know,
which I still think is kind of, in my opinion, I think on a Hollywood level, I think it's still a little backwards because, you know, if you get the actors who are the ones that are, the actors have always made way more money than the writers have to begin with.
Oh, of course.
So if you can get them on board, the writers may be like, all right, you know, maybe we'll go ahead and jump on too. So it just, it does seem a little backwards.
Well, that's always been backwards because, you know, the writers have always been dumped on the most and underpaid the most because if you think about anything in Hollywood, it doesn't matter, a TV show, streaming series, film, short film, documentary, even maybe sometimes reality, nothing happens without a script. So if you can't even start anything without a script as the base blueprint for your project, but then you're still underpaying those guys and paying them chump change for it, and then you're making millions and millions of dollars, everybody's getting happy, in fact, that writer's not. So I always thought a good negotiating point the writers should do, and I wrote a few of them to you know, speak up. But I said, you know, good thing to do is if they're not going to compromise or give way on this pay that you're getting underpaid for, then now what you do is do what the actors do, is negotiate points on the back end. And that is profit sharing. So anything, once the project's in the black, everybody's been paid, all distributors, P&A, all that kind of stuff has been paid. Then you're in the black, everybody's sharing this now profit from there with producers, executive producers, actors sometimes. Well, the writers should do the same thing, I think. If you're going to underpay us, we'll take a pay cut, but you're going to give us points on the back end, and we're going to profit share. And then you can start making some decent money. That's about the only way it's going to happen. Yeah.
That's actually not because of a strike or anything, but that's actually what Bruce Willis did on 12 Monkeys. He wanted to work with the director so bad.
Yeah.
That was a little bit of a different case, but he wanted to work with that director so badly. He's like, I'll work for free, but I want a percent if it starts making money on the back end. And it ended up being very good for him, a good deal for him in the long run. Because
a lot of actors do that. They'll take free projects or pay cuts, huge pay cuts for points on the back end because they believe in that project so much. They're thinking it's going to make a profit. One nonprofit one, just because he loved the project so much, was The Last Indian and Anthony Hopkins. He went financial core, and went from union down to non-union because it was only a non-union project at the time. He loved it so much he had to work it. Eventually, I think during production, it upgraded to a union project eventually, but it did start off non-union. He was willing to do that. So sometimes it goes that extreme to where these A-list actors will do that for the love of a project, you know, and that's nice to see, you know.
Oh, absolutely. And just want to touch on again, I know you brought it up a little for us a minute earlier, but you talked about, you know, the elevated film streaming service that's coming up. So, and that was I believe Lisa is who you're speaking of, right? Yep.
Lisa, Simpson, ironically, I know. Yeah. I told her she have a brother named Bart, you know, she just laughed.
Oh, it'd be awesome.
But yeah, I know, but yeah, she's my agent, and she started the streaming service during COVID or during the strike and stuff, so it's really smart.
Yep. Yeah, and we you know, we're signed up with her to do the podcast with her on there.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you guys are. That's how we got in touch. Yeah. No. Yeah. Well, this is many for
the viewers don't know that though. So
yeah, viewers don't know, right? Exactly.
But no, it is. I agree. It's gonna be a cool little setup, and it's you know, it's one of those, you know, taking a bad situation of what's going on and everything, and finding a way to make something out of it.
Yeah. She has to keep it alive too. I mean, she's been in business for a while, but she's still a boutique agency. She's not one of the big ones like CAA or WME, so she's struggling too. this is very smart, to do this and to create something. This is all for the filmmakers too.
Mhm.
For some of the clients who've already made some small films, haven't gotten any distribution on it, this is a good way to do it. Now, I got a couple of projects on something called Tonic TV. It's off of Roku. I have a couple of projects there, and then I have another one called Cube Stream, where I have, I think, 1 or 2 projects there. So I've done these small independent streaming services also to get distribution for my stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
The only other thing I'm wondering, I'm sorry.
I was gonna say I've heard of Tonic TV. I haven't heard of that third one that you mentioned.
Yeah, Cube Stream. Yeah.
Yeah.
They got a lot of content on there. Yeah.
Is that also on Roku?
No, I think it's independent online. So
Okay.
Okay.
you just have to type in cubestream.com, I think, and then you'll see it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing I was wondering about is, especially with the situation now, maybe you might have a little more insight on this than I do, but so with the strike, we're talking a lot about that, and how it's haltering, and then people in unions, even independent people in the union. I'm wondering, because there's quite a few film festivals that start beginning at the end of the year and through the beginning of the year. I'm wondering what that's going to do to them, if indie film festivals will still be able to do what they do, or if that's going to affect. Do you have any knowledge on that? If you know if that's going to affect those?
Yeah. It'll affect them to the extent where they can do the full competition, they can get the prize money and everything else. They cannot do any production deals still.
Yep. They won't be, sign any
that's usually part of the
distribution.
prize. Yeah, usually part of the prize also, if you win a decent level screenwriting competition, is that you also get a meeting with the producers. They have there, or some producers or judges there, and may say, hey, yeah, I want to take a step further, let's talk, stuff like that. So they can still win the prize money and everything else, but they just won't be able to negotiate any deals until at least the writer's strike's over.
Yeah, that's why I was asking, because like you start seeing a lot of the bigger ones, like end of or December through January, February. That's when a lot of the big ones are going on.
Yeah. Right. Well, if this writer, especially like the acting strike too, continues past the first of the year, I mean, we're talking January, February. The big one in Utah there, the
Sundance.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I can see like somebody like Robert Redford postponing that until a little bit later, until it is finished. Some of the big ones might do that just because they don't want to, lose the other part of the whole showcase of this is, you win your script competition, then you get a producer's meeting, and then you can sell it right then and there. Well, that part's taken out until the writer strike's over, then the acting strike's over, so it is affected, but you can still, I don't enter competitions doing this, I'm out of respect, for the writers and everything else, even though I'm not union, but still I don't enter anymore right now either, so then I'll wait until it's over.
Yeah, I was just that's something actually literally just popped into my head. I'm like, hey, what's it going to do for those things?
Right, Yep. Yeah, it does affect it, at least half of it anyhow, and you can still win the prize money, which is chump change also. I think it's ridiculous. I mean, it's the same thing. Writers just get shit on, competitions, sales, everything else. We get the low end.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, I mean, the 2 biggest things with the film festivals, you're not going to make, like, for the prize money there. I think they're more looking for number one, obviously, the meetings, the producer meeting or distribution meeting, and also the exposure of it. Like you can actually say, winner of Sundance. Like you always see those movies where it's got the little stamp on there,
or there's like a title screen where all the awards and accolades are around the name.
And that goes a long way too. I mean, in the future, it's like, hey, this was, they won Cannes, or they won Sundance, or South by Southwest, or any of the big ones that you have out there.
Yeah, I'll give you an example. Like for Sundance, if you submit a film and you get approved, you're automatically eligible for the next following year. Okay, so there's one production. There's a couple students from LA Film School where I went to. They graduated before I did. They came together and they networked together, and they made a couple of independents. They made this one independent film, submitted to Sundance. It got in for the title alone.
Oh wow!
Period. It was called Douchebag. So because of that funny title, they actually got accepted into Sundance. Now, they didn't win anything, obviously. It was probably just a piece of crap. But what it did for them is it made them automatically eligible for next year to submit. And you're going to get automatically in for that. So they made a really good movie and won the grand jury prize. So see what I mean? So it's like you start off little just by name recognition only. Some quirky title, they allowed it in. It opened the door for them for the next following year, and they won the grand jury prize, and they got $4 million deal with Paramount.
Nice.
Right there on the spot.
From the
And that was
douchebag.
I'm trying to think of the title of that one. I can't remember it offhand. I can't remember. I'll think of it later, but Yeah, it was like
Back in
those
the
crazy kind of stories can happen too. That's dumb luck, and it's great, but I mean it can happen that way,
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, definitely wanted to leave a little bit of time because we got about, about 10, 15 or about 15 minutes, I think, left on this one. So
Yeah.
just did you guys have any questions
No,
or anything you wanted to bring up?
So I had a question.
Yeah.
What's probably the most weird or unusual thing that you ever had to do or deal with like on set in your acting career so far?
Ooh, boy, that's a lot. Yeah, it is interesting. Trying to think weird wise. I mean, filming sometimes can just be weird, but I mean, some of the experiences. I mean, actually, for me, I don't know. Trying to think. One of the grueling things was working on the island with Michael Bay because I did Pearl Harbor with him, so I got hired a couple years later to do the island.
I love that movie.
And what happened was he was filming and he didn't like the first group of Agnet background people, the ones in the white suits. He didn't like how they were performing, didn't, listen well, everything else. So he fired all them and hired a second group. And I was part of the second group that came in. And for that process, it was grueling. It is kind of weird and strenuous, I guess, in a way, because we could not sit, we could not fold our arms, we couldn't do anything, basically until lunch. So we had to stand there the whole time, wait, or if we're in background holding, we had to be careful to sit down. We had these paper aprons and jackets to put on over to protect our suits. So yeah, that was kind of weird because, Michael Bay, like people ask me when I want to direct and who I want to be like. And I said, well, I want to emulate after Michael Bay and Clint Eastwood. Now, to me, people, if know their styles, they're like oil and water, salt and pepper. They're opposites. Michael, he's super meticulous where he'll be shooting one shot, send a small skeleton crew to set the next shot. So he's shot, boom, 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 all the way through the whole process until you got lunch. We used to yell and scream and cheer when we heard lunch. That was our first program. And, but then you got Clint Eastwood. I worked 2 films with him. He's known as the one take wonder. So he'll meticulously set up the shot, very great detail, make sure the actors are well rehearsed and everything, they're ready to go. And then he shoots one shot, boom, keeps it, moves on. Now, that could be either a good thing or a really bad thing for the editor.
Yeah.
Now, when the editor has all the clips, they only have one clip for that shot. And they're like, it has to be good. It has to be perfect. Because, then you look at it, it's like, then you got Nora Ephron and David Fincher, who do sometimes 99 takes on the shot. Way extreme on the opposite side of the polar. And it's like, to me, that's just a lack of confidence because I don't care what level they're at. If he takes 99 takes to make one simple shot, there's something wrong. But the thing is, all 4 of those guys have made brilliant films. None of them has made a bad film yet. So everybody's process is different, on how you do things. And it's crazy. But I mean, probably, Clint's probably the craziest. I mean, one of the crazy things with him, we're working on Flags O Father. And I'm a wartime photographer, and we're setting up a shot, and these are the screw-in flash bulbs. So one shot, boom, bang, boom, you got to put a new one in. So our prop guy says, well, I'm not going to put it in right now, guys. So, don't click, don't flash. It's just rehearsal, right? Well, I overhear, Clint's pretty close to me where I'm at, and I hear him tell his DP, said, hey, let's go ahead and shoot this one. I'm like, oh, shit. So I'm trying to get the prop guy's attention, like, they're going to roll, whatever. He's like, what? So we did it. We whole shot with no flash. So they had to CGI that later. And the prop guy fan comes over. Now I see what you're talking about. He said, next time, I don't care for rehearsal, just flash. So it was like, so that was crazy too. Cause for him to keep a rehearsal shot, not just the first shot, was insane. I mean, it was so good for him. He just said, that's it. Let's move on.
Wow. Yeah, I heard actually that Scorsese kind of does a little bit differently. He does multiple takes, but for a different reason. He'll do one, even if he likes it. And this is just what I've heard now. He'll be like, let's do it again. Let's try something different. He'll do like 4 or 5 different renditions of the same take, even though there's nothing wrong with them. And then he likes to go back and watch which.
It gives the editor choices. Yeah, it gives the editor definitely some choices on which shot would be better fit. Yeah, I heard that too. I haven't worked with him. But
like hardcore FOMO.
Yeah,
I like this, but could it be better? Let's find out.
Well, it's not so much
here's
like
the way
better. He just likes to do it different.
Yeah.
Here's the way I would direct too. Also, is you know, like I said, I like the style from Clint and like the style of Michael. I want to combine the two. But same token, I want to be an actor-friendly director as well. And there's not a lot of those out there. You know, some of the bigger shots, they're kind of like they're godfathers of directing and movie making, that you kind of listen to them. But I like it to where you also get the inputs of the actors. They're the one acting the scene. We can see what they're doing, but they're feeling what they're doing. And so if something like Marty, he may have actually maybe checked with some of the actors too, say, hey, how do you feel about that one? You think we can do a little differently? Mm-hmm. And I would do the same, just to see if they're comfortable with it. If they're good, then okay, we move on. If they're not, then it's okay, let's try it. How would you do it differently? You know, you want to involve the actors in the process because they're the ones acting for you and putting it together. You know what I mean? And even though your first shot worked the way you described, you know, you wanted and directed it, now, you know, like Marty does, get a different perspective and see what the actors think and say, okay, how do you think we can do this a little differently? And I would do that too. And it gives a lot of respect from the actors, and they will love you and adore you, and they'll want to work with you. You know, that's the way. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, and I heard that's actually very similar to how James Cameron is too. He's a lot more of an actor's director.
It takes a lot of takes too.
He likes to ask people, especially if it's people he's worked with many times, like obviously like, you know, Arnold or someone like that. You know, he'll be like, what do you think about this before we start shooting? Or if someone comes up to him and says, hey, you know, I wanted to, you know, could we try this? I've heard that he's pretty flexible on that. He's like, oh, let's do it.
He is, I've heard the same. I haven't worked with him either, but
he's a very patient man, because he does a movie like every 10 years or something, or every 7 years. So I mean,
a lot of his movies on green screen. So what he does is cool. He has playback. He brings the actors over and they play back with the actual what the movie's going to look like. He has that green screen already projected on there of what the background's going to look like, so they can see themselves, even though they know they're filming on green screen. They can come see what it's actually going to look like in the theater with the backdrop already in, with the editing and stuff. And it's like they're like, oh, that's pretty cool. Because the green screen is one of the hardest acting jobs ever, the way to act, because you have to fake it. You have to just pretend something's there. I mean, even if the backdrop behind you is fine, but if you have to interact with something that's not there, you know, they'll do like a C-stand with a tennis ball or something like that. Yeah. You know, get your eye line right and your attention right. It's tough. It's one of the most difficult forms of filming. That's why a lot of directors try to aim to do in-camera shots. But at least, you know, James Cameron, he meets us halfway. Where you got a green screen act, but come see how it looks, how it's going to look, and that really, you know, boosts the confidence of the actors.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, so I guess I want to ask this real quick. So, you know, since we got a few minutes, before we have to sign off, and you probably already given it, but if you can go back and reiterate, what do you feel is the most important or biggest piece of advice you could give somebody for like DIY, or, you know, in film in general, and in your experiences, what would be the like one solid piece of advice you think is one of the most important? I'm sure they're all super important, but if there's something that sticks out in your head.
Biggest thing is a lot of research and knowledge. You got to look everything up and see how to do everything. But the biggest thing is patience, perseverance. You got to stick with it. If you let Hollywood beat you down and from all the rejections and everything else, you're not going to make it. So you have to know how to take rejections and turn that into something positive, and wait to get that final approval. Yes, you know. So that's the biggest thing, is patience and perseverance. No doubt.
Nice. Well, we want to, you know, say thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks, guys, for having
me. You know, we'll keep in touch, and then, you know, if you want to come back on, if you got something going on once the strikes and everything settled down, and you can got a project you want to kick on, but, you know, appreciate you joining us. Thank you for all the information. I'm sure it's going to be very valuable to a lot of people out there. So really cool having you, and, you know, we'll talk offline, you know, keep in touch, and, you know, we'll be on, well, maybe in the future we could discuss working together about some other things as well.
Sounds good. I like it very much. Thanks, guys.
All right, Chaz, thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thanks for joining us.
All right, you too, guys. Take care.
Bye. Okay.
Here we go. Before I end it, we'll just do
do what we did last time. And we can just clip this middle part out.
Yeah, that's fine. Why? This is the fun part. This is like, this like the paid stuff that we get, like
the Patreon stuff.
Yeah. You get 3 seconds of us like, okay, let's cut this out.
We're gonna
we're real interesting when we're not editing this shit out.
Thanks for the $1.
Yeah.
But no, that was Chaz Fatur, based out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
But he apparently was born in California and did some Navy work, and he got the acting bug while he was in the military, which is the same thing that happened to Rob Riggle. He was a Marine fighter pilot, and then he's like, you know what I want to do? I want to be a low-paid comedian.
Yeah.
And now he's a famous movie star. But he was a Marine fighter pilot before for like 5 years. He's like, you know what? I'm gonna go be an actor.
I mean,
and he's also like 6'5" and just like 250 pounds of pure muscle.
Yeah.
Well, why risk your life when you can, just make people laugh?
Yeah.
A lot of money.
Exactly. That's the thing. He's genuinely hilarious. But I do like how we were talking about Martin Scorsese. He's like, I've never worked with Marty. Like, he's already that comfortable with it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know much about background extra acting, but I'm assuming you're not on first name basis with giant directors if you're the extra in scene 2.
Or maybe.
Yeah.
That's why he's always there.
Yeah.
We've got to get Chaz out here right now. He's got a suit he can wear like no one else can.
He could wave to a taxi cab like you would never believe.
Have you seen him ride a bike?
Because we haven't. It was blurry.
But it's there.
Yeah.
It is there.
No, but that was a great interview. He had a lot of cool stories.
Yeah.
A lot of kind of like how you were trying to do filmmaking, a lot of guerrilla do it yourself kind of work. I'm genuinely surprised, like, well, they're not in at least the Screenwriters Guild, because they already have a script that they're working on. The other one was an executive producer who made money off of a script. So I'm surprised maybe they don't want to be tied down to a union, because you don't have to join your union.
That might be the biggest thing, is they probably just don't want to have to deal with the union politics of it. So, because like as independent or freelance writers, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
You don't have to answer to anybody. You don't have to have any regulations.
You get securities and you get leads and all that.
There's pluses and minuses to both, but I'm not going to speak on all of it because I don't know. But just like anything else, there's always goods and bads that come with it. So I think though you do have complete free reign if you're freelance. You don't have to worry about. There's no.
But they probably get undercut. Like, oh, you're not union.
Yeah.
Here's 30 grand for something. I'd pay 60 grand for your union rep.
Yep. But no, that was Chaz Fatur. So awesome time talking to him. A lot of good information. You guys just stick with us. That was another good interview, and we'll be back to our normal format next week. But then the following weekend, we will be having another interview with
Miss Kimberly Harris.
Yep, Kimberly Harris will be coming back with us out of Los Angeles. That'll be we'll be recording it the weekend of Labor Day. So that episode will post 2 days after Labor Day. But just, keep an eye out. We'll still keep on posting stuff. We're now we've been on YouTube now for a few weeks straight. So keep checking the YouTube channel out.
Subscribe to our podcast on Spotify. I mean, generally, any place you subscribe to us is fantastic. Thank you, and we appreciate you.
If you see us, click the like.
Yeah, pretty much. But because of the way Anchor and Spotify merged together, we're hurting a little bit for those subscribers. So if you could subscribe on Spotify to get us to that next level, to the level we were at before the merger, that would be fantastic. So please just like and subscribe on Spotify. If you could comment too, that also helps with the algorithm. But you know what? We're not pushing our limits.
That's right.
Like and subscribe, please.
Just like and subscribe.
Smash that like button.
But yeah, you can also find us there on YouTube, all the other listening platforms. Check us out also on WDBF Radio, WDBF.FM or WDBFradio.com. Our show is on there on Sundays between 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Every week. So if you miss
the time of this recording, it just ended 40 minutes ago.
Yes, we record while we're being played.
Yeah.
Hold on.
So it's a paradox.
And as you just heard during this episode, we are going to be on the new Elevation streaming platform when it does launch. Hopefully by Labor Day, because they are hoping to do it before fall. So
Lisa's going to keep us up to date on that one. So
we'll definitely let you know when we're out there, but it is coming.
Yes. So a lot of good things. But thank you guys again.
Things are coming.
Yes. Yes.
Where do you get your weed, Mr. Cheezel? From you, got it.
What's up, Mr. Cheezel?
So until next time, we are your hosts for Movie Talks and Chill. I am Tony Serrato.
I'm Gavin Butts.
I'm Patrick Wall.
All right, guys, take care.